The Saints' 53-man roster is set, and it includes a surprising quarterback as the team trades for Teddy Bridgewater. Plus, LSU gets out to a big lead against Miami in Arlington. Nicholls pulls off a huge upset. Southeastern almost does the same, and Tulane falls to Wake Forest in overtime. LSU used just enough pass to open up the run. Senior Nick Brissett took advantage, and Dave Aranda's defense suffocated 8th-ranked Miami for most of this one. LSU wins its opener convincingly, 33-17. The full story from suburban Dallas in a few, but we'll start with the black and gold. The Saints opened at home Sunday against the Tampa Bay Bucks, and they might have found their quarterback of the future. I'm Doug Mouton. Welcome to 4th Down on 4. And that's our poll question tonight. If you were making the call, would you trade a third-round pick for Teddy Bridgewater? Yes or no? Vote now on our mobile app or on our website, wwltv.com/vote. Results coming later. Ricardo LeCompte has more on the trade.
The quarterback, Sean Payton, has always had an eye on.
He's an outstanding kid. He's not a kid anymore, but he's got great makeup, great football IQ. We liked how we played in the preseason. We think a player like that's valuable.
And the team Teddy Bridgewater has watched from afar.
I've actually been studying this offense in the off seasons since I was in college. To be a part of it now and to actually be able to learn it inside and out, I'm looking forward to that.
Now the two sides come together. The cost, a third-round pick. But New Orleans securing a backup quarterback who can start in this league. Bridgewater, a first-round selection by the Vikings in 2014, took over the starting duties 4 weeks into his rookie season. By year 2, he led Minnesota to an 11-5 record and the NFC North title. But during a preseason practice in 2016, Bridgewater suffered a gruesome knee injury, sidelining him for the year. Bridgewater came back late last season, and after the Vikings decided to let his rookie contract expire, the Jets swooped in and signed him. Bridgewater played well during the preseason, and NFL teams took notice.
We were excited to see him do well. Just you root for someone like that. It's hard to find players at that position that had something that significant, but credit him and his work ethic.
We put the work in, we put the time in, and it showed once the preseason game started. Being able to go out there and compete, show off my hard work. And I'm thankful that I had the opportunity to work with those guys in New York.
Bridgewater now gets his shot in the Big Easy. His contract runs through this season, and the team hasn't said it's committed to Bridgewater after that. The Saints have searched and missed in finding the QB of the future through the draft. This trade for Bridgewater, an established player who's only 25 years old, could finally lead to a successor for Drew Brees, but only time will tell. Until then, Bridgewater will catch up and be ready to be the backup to number 9.
I don't mind waiting. I get to learn from one of the best players to ever play this game. Get to be in a room with a great group of guys. I get to learn from Coach Payton also, so I look forward to that.
Ricardo LeCompte, 4th Down on 4.
All right, thanks, Ricardo. And the Saints practice squad is set. Jonathan Williams is back. The Saints brought back 2 tackles, 2 tight ends, and they have 2 running backs on the practice squad. 9 guys who spent training camp in Metairie. Sean Payton clearly likes what he's seen this summer, and he definitely liked what he saw in the preseason finale. The preseason ended Thursday night with a bang. Cam Meredith had a big night, and the Saints beat the Rams 28-0.
I thought we finished the preseason well tonight. I thought we played with some good energy, both sides of the ball. I was encouraged by that.
And clearly, in determining the final 53, it mattered. It solidified roster spots for Nate Stupar and Arthur Millette and Tommy Lee Lewis.
I mean, this is the last portion of your test, so it counts. Now, for some guys, not as much or not at all, but for a lot of guys, it counts. You know, we're trying to find that running back.
And clearly, Sean Payton saw something he liked in Boston Scott. and not in Jonathan Williams. Scott made the roster, and in maybe the most surprising cut, Williams didn't. The Saints cut both cornerbacks they drafted, Nicholls Jamerson and Cameron Moore, and kept DBs Justin Hardy and Chris Banjo for their special teams abilities. There were maybe a dozen roster spots up for grabs, but really very few rotational spots on offense or defense. And that's the bottom line heading into week 1. The Saints escaped training camp and the preseason without any significant injuries, with a deep, extremely talented and largely young roster. And in their opener, they will not see Jameis Winston. Remember, he's suspended, and Buck fans who expected better than 5-11 last year are disappointed again.
I understand that they're disappointed. I mean, I'm disappointed. You know, I should never put myself in that situation, but all I can do is grow and learn from that. You know, and when I tell the fans, like, man, continue to support this team. Continue to support me. I've just learned that you can't put yourself in these situations.
Ryan Fitzpatrick opens the season as the Bucs starting quarterback, and Tampa Bay GM Jason Licht says there's no guarantee Winston will start when he returns in week 4. It's disarray, and it's part of the reason the Saints open the season 9.5-point favorites. According to the Bovada Sportsbook, that's the NFL's largest point spread. In week 1, the Saints are the NFL's best bet. And we're joined in studio by both Ricardo and Andrew. All right, yes or no, that's all you can give me. If you're making the call, do you trade a third-round pick for Teddy Bridgewater?
Yes. Probably not.
Probably not. See, I'm in the yes, because I think a third-round pick on a guy who could be your quarterback of the future is worth the gamble. Tell me why probably not.
Worst case scenario, you walk away and you took Bridgewater for a 1-year rental that was a very, very expensive insurance policy. Now, if he is your quarterback of the future, everything works out perfect, and he's willing to sit behind Drew Brees, then it all works out gravy. But you got to think about next year as well. Is he going to be willing to take a pay cut potentially? Because look, everybody says, well, maybe the list for NFL teams that need a quarterback is going to be small next year. You never know what's going to happen this season, and everyone's going to be in the market for a quarterback. Will you be able to keep up with the price tag that he might come along with, especially when you're talking about maybe a Michael Thomas extension, and then if Drew Brees is still here, to add pieces around him in free agency to make another run if they don't get it done this year?
All right, tell me if I'm wrong, Ricardo. My counter to that would be, look what it costs for Kirk Cousins, who's a pretty good quarterback. If you wait until Brees is gone and try to get it in free agency, you're going to blow your budget for years. That's my counter.
See, I'm always on the line of, you have to go after a quarterback. If you feel like he is the guy that can run an offense, run the NFL franchise, you go after him. You don't sit back and wait. It's hard to find a franchise quarterback.
No doubt.
And if you think that you have it, then go ahead and go after it.
Right.
And we've already seen the Saints being burned in the draft, for example. We've already been burned in the draft trying to find the next quarterback of the future in the draft. So if there's somebody who's already established, Teddy Bridgewater is 25 years old. You just give up a third. Imagine if you give up a third and he ends up being the guy who's going to be the successor to Drew Brees. You got to take that chance just for a third-round pick. Worry about the money, worry about that later, but it's hard to find a franchise quarterback anywhere.
I agree completely. And obviously the Saints believe, to counter you, Andrew, that getting him in the culture will get him to want to stay here by being here for a year and seeing what this offense can do. Okay, one thing that worries you about this team. Andrew, you go first, because, look, this team is loaded and young. What is the scary point?
I think still the interior defensive line. I think we've heard Sheldon Rankins and Tyler Davison and David Onyemata even had great camps. But I still saw them get gashed in some preseason games. And that running game, rush defense rather, was something that still scared me all last season. I just want to see it in a real live game, that this is going to be figured out and that they're not going to have linebackers who are going to be having to clean up the scraps behind them.
No doubt. That's a good call.
I'll go two areas. One, I still want to know who's going to be that backup running back to Alvin Kamara in these first 4 games. We have an idea of who it could be behind Kamara, but you see the Saints still looking for running backs. They're adding running backs to the practice squad. They're still trying to shuffle and figure out who would be that guy. So I would have an area of concern there. Also, who is going to be your backup offensive lineman if someone goes down?
Sure.
There's a talented front 5. But if Andrews Pete isn't back from his injury, if something happens to Teron Armstead, we haven't seen him play a full 16 yet. If he goes down, if something happens to Ramczyk, who's going to step in there? I know Will Clapp has had a great camp. I know that Cameron Tom is a guy that they think highly of, but they haven't been tested yet. So if somebody goes down in that 5, is there a quality backup to fill in?
And that's a good point. Although when you start saying the weakness is the backups, you're saying that you're dealing from strength. All right, in 5 seconds, yes or no, do the Saints win Sunday in the opener against the Bucs?
Oh, yeah.
Yeah.
Big.
Big. All three of us agree on that one. That's an easy one. We're back with more 4th Down on 4 in a minute. Coming up, we'll head to Big D, where the Tigers got out to a massive first-half lead against Miami. Plus, Nicholls gets it done, upsetting Kansas on the road. We'll hear from Tim Rebowe and the Colonels. And Southeastern and Tulane came extremely close to huge wins in their season openers.
The leadership on this football team has been phenomenal all camp, and I want to credit those guys. I think Steve Ensminger did an excellent job of managing the game tonight, although we made some mistakes really early. Joe Burrows kept us cool, and we were able to score 33 points. Also, really pleased with the defense, obviously, and we're a little disappointed those last 2 long balls. We're going to get that fixed, but there's a lot of good things there. This was a very good football team. I thought their receivers were very, very good. So for us to hold them that 17 points was a good feat. I'm really proud of special teams. Cole Tracy, 4-4, 54-yard field goal, tied a school record. I thought we were solid in the special teams. On the kickoff return, we should have fair catched it. We made a mistake there, and there's something we can improve on. There's a lot of things that we can improve on, which we will. I told the team that we're going to enjoy this win. We're going to go back and prepare, just like we did this week, for next week's opponent.
That was Ed Ogeron live in Arlington, Texas, as the LSU Tigers got a huge win over the Miami Hurricanes. The hot seat got a lot cooler for Ed Ogeron tonight. His quarterback's numbers won't wow you. Joe Burrow finished 11 of 24 for 140 yards, but he did a lot right. And get this, LSU committed 0 turnovers. They got 2, and they rolled over the 8th-ranked Miami Hurricanes. Burrow managed the game. This run early in the 4th quarter, a great example of what Burrow did right. On a 3rd and long, Burrow gets it. Again, no turnovers. Meanwhile, the Tigers got 2. They were both huge. 2 picks. This one from Jacob Phillips went for a pick 6. Dave Aranda's defense shut down a top 10 team for most of the night. And as Ed Ogeron just said, the Tigers were excellent on special teams. New kicker Cole Tracy, 4 for 4. That 54-yarder, Tracy could play a major role in the SEC as the season wears on. LSU opens the season with a huge win, 33-17 over 8th-ranked Miami. Now, both Nicholls and Southeastern got their seasons off to great starts on the road at FBS schools. The Lions nearly upset ULM. The Colonels did beat Kansas, so we'll start in Thibodaux, where Andrew Doak reports.
With Chase Forcade, their 3rd-year starter.
Nicholls didn't waste any time letting Kansas know they weren't going home empty-handed. After the Colonels' defense forced a 3-and-out to start the game, Nicholls' offense marched down the field and capped off a 9-play, 78-yard scoring drive with a 15-yard touchdown from Dontrell Taylor.
Back and across.
It kind of gave us another bit of confidence that we belong here and we could play here.
The Colonels controlled the game for almost 3/4 of the contest. Nicholls had more total offense, more first downs, more rushing yards, and a greater time of possession than Kansas. And they did most of their damage on the ground. Former Newman star, number 2, Kendall Bussey, scampered for 128 yards and a touchdown, which came on this 40-yard burner that gave the Colonels their first lead of the game at 17-10 with 3:50 left to play in the 3rd.
They're recognizing some tendencies
But Nicholls shot themselves 3 times in the foot on special teams to open the door for Kansas. A snap into the end zone led to a safety in the 4th to make it 17-12. Then a muffed punt gave KU the ball on the Colonel 10 and led to 6 more.
Johnson, and that's Kurt Johnson for the touchdown.
which was followed by a 2-point conversion to give the Jayhawks the lead back, 20-17 with 4:26 left in regulation.
I looked on the clock, I said, we got 4 minutes left, we need a field goal.
But it didn't come as easy as 4K would think. Number 9 set them up for a shot to tie on a 43-yard try with 52 seconds left. Lauren Fonseca missed the first attempt that was negated by a penalty, but on his second try, he knocked through the equalizer. They would head to overtime tied at 20. Kansas would settle for 3 on their first possession, and that's when the Colonels knew it was over.
I think it was going to be our shot. We had been moving the ball in that fourth quarter, so I was confident that we could punch it in.
And just as Rebo thought they would, 4K would ice it on a 13-yard game winner.
Chase 4K.
It was Nicholls' 4th ever win in school history against an FBS opponent. And while some may call it an upset, the Colonels looked every bit the part of the favorite. And it also speaks to the complete turnaround and rebuild that this team has seen under head coach Tim Rebo. Here in Thibodaux, Andrew Doak, 4th Down on 4.
Southeastern nearly pulled the FBS upset. At ULM, quarterback Chasen Virgil threw for 358 yards and 4 touchdowns. The Lions had a 37-yard, potentially game-tying field goal blocked on the game's final play, and the Warhawks beat Southeastern 34-31.
The Warhawks escape.
We want to make sure that we're not satisfied with what happened, because we're not. We didn't win the football game, but we did do some good things, and we're not going to overlook that.
Frank Selfo opted for the field goal instead of going for the touchdown. This Virgil to Juwan Petit-Ferrer pass took the Lions to the Warhawks 16. But from there, Southeastern set up for the field goal and did not take a shot at winning the game in regulation.
Yeah, I mean, you can go to the end zone, take a sack, now you're outside of field goal range, things like that. So we didn't want to do that. Felt good about our kicker. Jonathan does a good job. He's had a good camp. Never thought twice about it. The whole staff, we said, let's get to the middle, let's kick it, tie it up, go to overtime. We felt comfortable about us playing in overtime.
Needless to say, there are a ton of positives coming out of the near miss in Monroe. Maybe the biggest, the play of junior Juwan Petit-Ferrer. Number 5 can fly. He caught 5 passes for 148 yards and 2 touchdowns.
He's in the end zone for the touchdown.
He's becoming a good receiver, route running, understanding coverages, understanding positioning on the field, and then catching the football. And we know what he can do with the ball in his hands, but we just had to, all those things lead up to it.
The Lions have another monster test before settling into their Southland schedule. They play at LSU Saturday night. Coming up, Tulane took Wake Forest to overtime at Yulman Stadium Thursday night, but the Wave could not seal the deal. But why there's reasons for optimism for this season. That story when we come back. This close. Unfortunately, that's becoming a theme at Tulane. Thursday night, the Green Wave took a good Wake Forest team to overtime, but could not seal the deal, as Ricardo LeCompte reports.
A point of emphasis after last season ended, closing out games. That kept Tulane out of a bowl game, and it also kept them from earning a signature win against the ACC's Wake Forest Thursday night.
We need to finish these out. We've been talking about that a bunch in the offseason. We didn't, do it.
It's the worst feeling in the world. I'd honestly rather get blown out by 50.
The Green Wave at least put themselves in a position to win. But in the first half, their offense struggled to score and amassed just 151 yards of offense in the first 2 quarters.
We just couldn't get going, couldn't get a rhythm going. Unfortunately, that's frustrating. It kind of went off and on, but yeah, we couldn't just get a steady rhythm.
Meanwhile, the defense got tired by an up-tempo attack led by true freshman quarterback Sam Hartman.
We got wore out a little bit. The thing they do when they go fast-paced, which is smart, is they keep the same personnel group in, so it's hard to substitute unless you're near your sideline.
The defense adjusted and eventually solved the fast-paced Wake O and forced 3 turnovers in the contest.
We have dogs on the field, so the dog get tired, he keep fighting. So we just kept fighting, but it was pretty hard. It was hard to keep fighting, but we did it.
The Tulane O also got going thanks to 2 big touchdown passes from Jonathan Banks to Taron Onkalod. A 52-yarder and a 74-yard strike to give the Green Wave the lead. Onkalod finished with a career-high 227 all-purpose yards and 2 scores.
He just trusts me, and he has a really strong arm. He just throws it, and I make the play.
Down 3 late in the fourth quarter, Banks picked up a huge first down on a 4th and 11, and the drive ended with a 39-yard field goal from Merrick Glover. The game went into overtime, but Tulane squandered its first possession, failing to score after a 15-yard penalty on first down pushed the Wave out of field goal range. Wake took the ball on its OT possession and drove down for the winning score. Penalties kept Tulane from the season-opening victory and a chance to snap a 12-game losing streak to Power 5 schools. The Green Wave committed 9 for 83 yards, but the team doesn't think this will be an issue moving forward, chalking this up to first-game jitters.
Got to play better and smarter. You know, I saw a hit out of bounds. I saw, a few other plays that just, were very correctable.
Just simple things. We got to just get back to the basics, even from our half, just throwing and catching. Feel like I missed a lot of throws that I should have made, so we just got to come back next week, bounce back.
If anything, the Green Wave learned Thursday night it can hang with good teams, and now just needs to learn how to finish those games off. Tulane will host Nicholls next Saturday. In Uptown, Ricardo LeCompte, 4th Down on 4.
All right, thanks, Ricardo. Up next here on Channel 4, an encore presentation of our Eye on the Green Wave special, Tulane's perfect season 20 years later. Great stuff from that magical 1998 season. We're back with more 4th Down on 4 in a minute. An overwhelming number of 4th Down on 4 viewers like the Teddy Bridgewater trade. I voted yes, too. 74% say they'd also give a third rounder for Bridgewater. We're out of time. We'll see you next week on 4th Down on 4.